What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. And yeah, I get it. It's been kind of a dry stretch for Celtics news, but don't get too comfortable because things are about to heat up, not just in Boston, but across the entire NBA. Training camp is almost here, players are already trickling back into the gym, and we're about 6 weeks away from opening night. That's when the real test begins. No more hypotheticals, no more off-season projections, just real basketball. And for the Celtics, it'll be the first time in a long time we see what this group looks like across a full season without Jason Tatum leading the way. But before we even get into the Celtics situation, we got to talk about something absolutely wild happening out west. It involves Kawhi Leonard, a shady company, and what could turn into one of the biggest front office scandals the league's seen since the Joe Smith situation back in the day. And yeah, it may feel like a Clippers story on the surface, but trust me, this has the potential to impact teams across the league, including the Celtics. So let's get into it. Here's the short version if you haven't been keeping up. Kawhi Leonard reportedly signed a deal with a company called Aspiration. 4 years, $28 million, and apparently didn't lift a finger in return. No commercials, no social media posts, not a single appearance. The man didn't even show up on a billboard. Nothing. This wasn't some standard endorsement deal where a star athlete collects a check to show up at a few events. This was something else entirely. And that's where it starts to get messy. The company in question, Aspiration, is now under investigation by the SEC for wire fraud and a laundry list of other financial crimes. And it gets worse. Turns out the company didn't even have enough cash on hand to make Kawhi's most recent quarterly payment, a cool $1.75 million. So how do they pay it? Well, here's where the Clippers come into the picture in a very uncomfortable way. Dennis Wong, a minority owner of the Clippers and Steve Ballmer's old college roommate, personally invested $2 million in Aspiration just days before Kawhi's payment was due. And wouldn't you know it? That money magically found its way into Kawhi's account right on schedule. Wong's daughter also works at the company. Now, is this technically illegal? That's what investigators are trying to figure out. But does it smell funny? Yeah, real funny. Let's pause for a second and think about what that means in practical terms. Imagine the Celtics had a star, say Jaylen Brown, who agreed to take less than the max on paper, and then coincidentally landed a massive side deal with a fake pizza company that doesn't even serve pizza. No ads, no work, just millions of dollars magically showing up in his bank account. If you're a rival GM, you'd be furious. If you're a fan, you'd be asking questions. And if you're the league office, well, you'd better be preparing for a storm. Because that's the issue here. This doesn't just impact the Clippers. It hits at the very structure of the NBA's salary cap and collective bargaining agreement. Teams like the Celtics, who've spent the summer trimming salary, letting key players go, and sweating the second apron like it's tax season, are watching this unfold with wide eyes. Boston had to part ways with Kristaps Porzingis. They had to say goodbye to Drew Holiday. And they're still not done making moves just to get their books right. Meanwhile, if what's being alleged is true, the Clippers might have just sidestepped all of that by funneling money through a shell company. That's not just unfair. It's potentially catastrophic for how the league manages financial parity. And look, the NBA isn't taking this lightly. They've brought in outside investigators, people who, let's be honest, make the men in black look like mall cops. But these things take time, so we probably won't get any real answers until deep into the season, maybe around the All-Star break. Still, the damage could already be done. If Ballmer and the Clippers are found guilty of circumventing the salary cap, this could lead to punishments similar to what we saw in the Joe Smith case, and that involved forfeiting first-round picks. We're talking about the potential loss of 3 or more future first-rounders. Maybe more, depending on how deep this rabbit hole goes. And again, think about what that does to the league's landscape. If the richest owner in the NBA, who also happens to sit on the league's ethics and auditing committee, by the way, is bending the rules behind the scenes, what does that say to the rest of the teams following the system? Boston's front office has had to make real sacrifices. Real decisions that impact the roster and the team's ability to compete. And that's the difference. When you play within the rules, you lose assets. When you don't, well, you get to keep stars, stack talent, and maybe fly under the radar until someone blows the whistle. So yeah, the Clippers situation is wild. And while this won't directly change what Boston does right now, it absolutely could affect how the front office navigates future decisions. If the league cracks down and sets a precedent, expect every big market team, including the Celtics, to tread a little more carefully moving forward. And speaking of moving forward, let's pivot back to something a little more local. Celtics fans were finally given a reason to smile this week when Anthony Simons showed up at practice. The team posted a few photos on social media, and while that might seem minor, it actually says a lot. Boston's been pretty quiet about Simons ever since he arrived, probably because of all the uncertainty surrounding his contract and role on the roster. But now it feels like they're opening the door for him to truly integrate with the group. Maybe they're even reconsidering how long they want to keep him around. Because here's the thing, Simons is a bucket. He averaged 19 points per game last season, shot 36% from three on nearly 9 attempts a night. That kind of volume is no joke. The guy is a flamethrower, and you know Joe Mazzulla loves that kind of high-octane offensive talent. Whether or not he sticks with Boston long-term is still up in the air, but for now, it looks like he's locked in. And that could mean two things. Either the Celtics are serious about keeping him as a scoring weapon off the bench, or they're making sure he's showcased enough to have real trade value come deadline time. Either way, it's a win. You want guys like Simons to be engaged. You want them in the gym. You want them buying into the system. Because whether he's part of the plan or part of the future trade, his presence matters. And it's not just Simons showing up. Slowly but surely, more of the Celtics core is getting back in the gym, getting their legs under them again, reconnecting with the coaching staff, and started to lay the groundwork for what's going to be one of the more fascinating seasons this team's had in years. Because let's be real, this is no longer a team that's stacked top to bottom with clear-cut stars at every position. It's a group in transition, a team that's still built around Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, sure, but now filled out with a mix of young talent, mid-tier role players, and a handful of guys who are either playing for their next contract or just trying to prove they belong. And that creates a whole new type of energy. One of the most underrated stories heading into camp is Joe Mazzulla himself. Look, we've seen coaches inherit great rosters before and coast on that initial momentum. But now the question becomes, what can Joe actually build? Because this isn't the same team that was handed to him when he stepped in for Ime Udoka. That group had already been to the finals. They'd already gone through wars together. This version? It's younger. It's leaner. And there's more room for growth or collapse. But credit to Mazzulla. Behind the scenes, he seems to be doing everything right. Not XS and OS. We'll see how that unfolds on the court. But from a culture and leadership standpoint, the dude is showing up everywhere. He's been spotted hanging out with Derek Whiteout in Colorado, supporting Nemias Quetta at his own events, showing up for Jaylen Brown's initiatives. He's present. He's visible. And for a young coach still earning respect across the league, that matters. That stuff might seem small, but in today's NBA, relationships can make or break a locker room. We've seen it time and time again. When players feel like they're being heard, like their coach has their back, like their coach actually wants to be around them, it goes a long way. Especially when you're not entering the season as a clear-cut title favorite. The margin for error is going to be razor thin this year, and any edge you can create through chemistry, trust, or communication, that's going to be the difference between hosting a playoff series or watching it from the couch. Now let's talk young guns. The Celtics just finalized the training camp and G League roster for the main Celtics, and it's got some intriguing names, some familiar, some new, and one or two that might actually sneak their way into the big club's rotation by the end of the season if things break the right way. Ron Harper Jr., for instance, yes, that Ron Harper's son, will be there. Jalen Bridges, Kendall Brown, Aaron Scott, and of course, Amari Williams. Keep an eye on that last name, because if there's one guy who might get called up to fill in front court depth this year, it's him. That's the pulse right now. Not just waiting for games to begin, but watching the chessboard move behind the scenes. And the Celtics? They're right in the middle of it. But before we continue, please remember to subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest news about the Boston Celtics. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. In what could be the most jaw-dropping shakeup of the NBA offseason, the Boston Celtics reportedly stunned the basketball world with a last-minute acquisition that has left fans and analysts alike scrambling for words. Sources close to the team claim that the Celtics have pulled off an audacious double signing. None other than Kevin Durant and Zach LaVine are allegedly set to join the storied franchise, turning Boston into an instant powerhouse and sending ripples across the league. The rumor began circulating late last night, and social media has been ablaze ever since, with Celtics fans flooding Twitter, TikTok, and Reddit with speculation, memes, and outright disbelief. Durant, a perennial all-star and former league MVP, brings his signature scoring ability, elite shooting, and championship experience, while LaVine, known for his explosive athleticism and highlight reel dunks, could provide the kind of high-octane offense that complements Boston's already deep roster. If true, this unprecedented duo would immediately shift the balance of power in the Eastern Conference. The Celtics, who have long been competitive but sometimes just shy of dominance, could now be staring at a roster capable of challenging for the NBA title in the upcoming season. Rumors suggest that the front office worked feverishly behind the scenes to assemble a package that would entice both stars, though official confirmation remains elusive. Of course, skepticism runs high. Durant has been linked with several other franchises, and LaVine's name has surfaced in trade talks before without materializing. Yet, the timing, sources say, points to a late-night flurry of negotiations that caught the league off guard. If the whispers prove accurate, Boston fans might soon be witnessing a team that not only promises fireworks on the court, but also turns every game into a must-watch event. For now, the league is holding its breath. Sports journalists, analysts, and fans alike are eagerly awaiting any official statement from the Celtics organization. Whether it's a blockbuster revelation or an elaborate rumor, one thing is certain. The NBA offseason has just reached a whole new level of drama, and Boston is at the very center of it. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Boston Celtics, please subscribe to our channel and give the video a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.